Leave the World Behind is a new apocalyptic drama where we're following this family who are away for the weekend on this getaway holiday. And after being hit with a very unusual cyber attack, they end up one night having these two strangers show up at their door. Hi, welcome back to my channel and my review for Leave the World Behind. So this is a new Netflix exclusive movie directed by Sam Esmail. Not a director I've actually ever heard of before, to be honest. Never seen any of his movies. But of course here, working with very, very high profile actors. You know, you've got Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Kevin Bacon and Mahershala Ali. So very talented cast, and I thought, to be honest, the premise looked really interesting. You know, this idea of this kind of end of the world apocalyptic drama where you have this technological breakdown, confined location, and just seeing how these characters were going to deal with this bizarre situation unfolding. It's something that it's a type of movie that I tend to be more forgiving of because I just love those kind of themes in a movie. I love end of the world stories, apocalyptic films. I just find them very exciting and intriguing to watch, to be honest. So I was probably always going to be a little bit more forgiving of this film than maybe some other people would be. So despite the very mixed reviews that this film is getting, I have to say I really quite enjoyed it. And I can definitely understand, like looking at the negative reviews now, I can definitely understand why some people would not like this movie, because it does have a number of things wrong with it, which I will get into in this review. I think, when it gets into its political messaging and some of the characters and maybe the way the movie concludes, not all of it works for sure, but I think the things that it did well, it did extremely well. And, at the end of the day, it's a long movie, but I was never bored. I was very intrigued by the film. It kept me engaged for the entire runtime. And I think this is definitely one worth checking out if you're at least a bit interested in the premise here, because I really do think this is going to be a very love it or hate it movie. The main thing I loved about this film was just the whole atmosphere that it set up around like all of these very bizarre events unfolding. And there's a particular scene that happens at the very beginning where you're first starting to see this kind of breakdown of technology and there's these blackouts going on and everything. And it's where this family have first arrived on this holiday and they're out sunbathing on the beach, and the daughter is looking out at this oil tanker and it ends up kind of coming onto the shore because it's lost its navigation system. And the whole way this thing is filmed, it has a very unsettling vibe about it. And there was something about that I just found, just the way it was done, I found really, really intriguing to watch. And that's kind of the first thing you see where you know something is very wrong or something's happening. And just the way that these particular events get stranger as the movie goes on, I just found it hooked me, to be honest. I just couldn't stop watching it. I actually watched this over 2 nights, and the first hour I really didn't want to stop watching after that because I thought it was very interesting. Just the whole mystery behind this, I was dying to see how it was all going to conclude. And yeah, there's a number of scenes like this that just really worked for me. Like there's another one as well where involving a plane crash. And I just think there was a very sort of surreal quality about it where the way a particular character reacts to this situation, just in pure shock and confusion, almost lost for words at what's going on. I felt like I was really there with the character because I found it just as shocking as they seemingly were as well. It's so bizarre how it plays out. And yeah, just kind of the whole confusion surrounding that situation, not knowing what to do or say or how to deal with it. I thought the way it did that was really well done, to be honest. And yeah, certainly kept me interested. I was certainly not bored for a single moment of this film. So in terms of the way it's directed, the way the film is shot and it's made to look, where it's just given this very sort of eeriness about it, I find it hard to take my attention away from it, to be honest. So those things about the film that I thought really worked is the experience that's really stuck with me, and it's what's helped me to kind of overlook a number of the other problems that the film does have. whilst I definitely understand that some people have obviously found it hard to engage with the movie just because of how unlikable this group of characters are, and whilst I definitely do agree that they are all an extremely unlikable bunch, I don't necessarily think certain type of stories call for having likable characters, or somebody that resonates with you, or someone that you can root for, especially in a situation like this where most of the interest and in the interactions here for me come from this kind of the problems with trust these two families are having, where they're not really sure of each other's intentions, they don't know whether to trust each other, they don't know whether things get worse, how they're going to react to certain situations, and they're kind of trying to get on, but at the same time kind of keeping themselves very guarded because of the nature of this very strange situation that's unfolding. So for me, I found the dynamic and the interactions very interesting, so I didn't actually mind the fact that I pretty much hated all of these characters. I do think maybe at times, though, that it's a little bit over the top with how unlikable they've made them. Like, the teenage boy in particular, he's just an absolute prick. And whenever he's on screen, there's just... It felt over the top to me in how he was reacting, especially to do with the interactions with his sister. I was just like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? They don't even really show you any reason why this guy is like this. It's just, he doesn't have a story arc. He's just there to be there and be annoying. And also Mahershala Ali's daughter, a character in this film as well, that I found her arrogance and just something about her very frustrating to watch at times. So there were definitely moments where I found myself getting impatient with her character just because of just some of the stuff she was coming out with was just annoying me. So I do get it from that perspective, but I don't think it's a story that really needs you to have characters that you can really get on board with and sympathise with on this occasion. I think some of the problems come when it starts to get into its themes and political messaging, and I like the themes of the film. The main thing, obviously, it's talking about is, how just a breakdown in technology, communication, and how people in the modern world are suddenly thrust into this kind of tailspin where they don't know how to react, they don't know what to do, they're all lost and confused, and there's so much chaos that's coming from this situation that even though at early on in this film, at this point in time, like the Wi-Fi's gone off and they can't contact anyone by phone. So it's like not much has actually happened, and it really does give you that kind of feeling of the end of the world. And I did really like that. It's kind of commenting on that, how reliant we are on technology and how the breakdown in that can actually cause a lot of issues. And obviously it goes over the top with it in some parts, but I do like the themes it's touching on with that. But I think, I did actually read a piece that someone a media journalist had done about how this film does a good job of talking about race. And to be honest, I didn't get any of that from the film. And I saw at the beginning, obviously it's a Netflix exclusive that's produced by the Obamas, so you can expect there to be a little bit of political messaging throughout the film. But there's a particular scene when the family first turn up at this house where Julia Roberts' character is very suspicious of these people, and this media piece, it was kind of talking about it from the perspective that it's kind of showing her distrust of a black family who are very wealthy, obviously owning this huge house, and it was kind of like a race issue they were putting in there. But to me, with Julia Roberts' character, they set up at the start that she's a bit of a misanthrope, just really hates people, likes to be away on her own thoughts, doesn't like to be around people, and is, doesn't trust people, and doesn't find it easy to get close to people. So it felt natural to me that she wasn't trusting, given the circumstance of this situation. That to me didn't feel like it was really tackling anything to do with race as such. There was another very eye-rolling scene for me as well later on with the Mahershala Ali's daughter, where she's speaking to her dad and things are ramping up and getting quite stressful by this point in the story, and she's like, oh yeah, you can really never trust white people in a situation like this. And it just felt so unnecessary to me just to have that random comment thrown in there, especially when her suspicions of white people never amount to anything. Like, this never, in the conclusion to this story, again, no spoilers here, but in the conclusion of this story, it never talks about, you know, how she was right to have such suspicions or anything like that. It was completely irrelevant to the story. The problems that these families are facing have nothing to do with race, in my opinion, in this situation. And yeah, I just thought that was kind of one of those things that was just thrown in there for the hell of it. And, you know, comments like that, you know, I don't mind there being politics in movies. I'm not somebody that gets upset about political messaging in movies. And, you know, I think even if it's a political stance that I disagree with, if it's laid out clearly and effectively, I'm happy for movies to do that. I like watching them and seeing people's different points of view. But when you've got little lazy things like that just thrown in there, I just think that's, yeah, it's kind of disappointing to see that in a film, and it's kind of distracting and almost like, yeah, it's a Netflix film, so we have to throw that in there sort of thing. So didn't care for little moments like that. I definitely think the ending to this needed work as well, to be honest. When you know, this is a 2.5 hour movie, and when you've been along for that kind of runtime, and it's quite meticulous and detailed about the build up of this story, and I was really intrigued to know how certain things were going to pay off, certain conclusions that were going to be made. I was really interested to see what they were going to do with that and how they were going to end it. And I found the ending quite disappointing, to be honest. Again, scaling around spoilers a little bit here, but I feel like a lot of the character arcs, the story about what's really going on, I was not satisfied with the level of detail they actually give us at the end of this movie. And, you know, I get what they were doing with the message at the end of the film and stuff, but I couldn't help but feel a little bit disappointed by the way the story wraps up. So people's criticism of the ending, I can definitely get on board with that, because I do think that needed a lot more consideration, to be honest. It wasn't a great way to end this film, especially when the build-up, in my opinion, was done so well. Overall, I do think it's a movie where the parts individually, like on the scenes and sequences on an individual basis, I think work a lot better than the movie overall. It has been a few days now since I've seen it, so I've had a bit of time to think about it, and I do recognise there are things in the story that don't entirely work. There are things that are not concluded properly. Things are not fleshed out as well as I would like them to have been. But still, despite all of that, I did still find it a very intriguing and engaging mystery to watch unfold. So it's definitely a movie I'd watch again. I can understand why people don't like it, but for me, it's mostly a positive experience. I did quite enjoy the movie. It's just a shame seeing some of the problems, because I think with a little bit more work, this could have been something really special. But I'm still going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5. So thanks a lot for watching my review of Leave the World Behind. Please do let me know all your thoughts in the comments as well if you've seen this. Quite an interesting one to talk about, given how mixed the responses have been to this. A lot of my friends already saying they really liked it. A load of them saying they absolutely hated it. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a love or hate film. So please do let me know where you landed on with this one. Please consider subscribing to the channel as well if you've been enjoying my content. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.